Welcome to the Unstoppable Freedom Podcast. I'm Jimmy Page. Like it or not, we find ourselves in the middle of a culture war that targets American values and everything that we stand for, things like life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Faith, family, and freedom are all in the crosshairs, and many seek to eliminate individual rights and freedoms. In America, everything about our founding fathers, our founding documents, our values and beliefs is under attack, and even American patriotism and love of the country is on the ropes. Well, the good news is this: millions of Americans have woken up and organizations have stepped up to defend American patriotism, our freedom, and our values. Well, our guest today is legendary coach Lou Holtz. Let me tell you a little bit about Lou before we get started. He's originally from East Liverpool, Ohio, and he serves as the chair of the Center for 1776 at AFPI. Holtz is considered one of the most successful college football coaches of all time. He enrolled in the Army ROTC and later served as an officer in the United States Army Reserves. And in addition to an extensive career as a head football coach for several universities you know, like Notre Dame, William and Mary, Minnesota, Arkansas, North Carolina State. I'm a Virginia Tech Hokie, so that hurts me just a little bit. But he was also the head coach for my New York Football Jets. There aren't many of us left that admit to be New York Jets fans, but he coached them. He later was a college football studio analyst for ESPN. And on December 3rd, 2020, Coach was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom for his contributions to our society by President Donald J. Trump. He's also the father of 4 children, probably the thing he's most proud of, grandparent to 9 children, and he currently resides in Orlando, Florida. Coach, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Jimmy. I appreciate that wonderful introduction. The only thing I'd add is I was married for 59 years to my high school sweetheart, and she passed away 4 years ago. But, you know, grief has turned into gratitude as time passes, but that's life. You know, you have the ups and downs, the goods and the bad. And I'd like to write a book titled Things I've Seen Change in This Country Since I Was a Youngster. That's 87 years, I might add, but
wow,
not all the change has been good. Yes, integration was great, important, but so many other things have just disrupted this country.
Yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit about that. First of all, that's amazing. 59 years to your high school sweetheart, which not very many people say today anymore. People are getting married so late in the game. How wonderful it is. My grandparents were also high school sweethearts. My parents were early college sweethearts. My wife and I were college sweethearts. So we have a lot in common there. But 59 years, what a blessing that is to have had a marriage like that. So it's amazing.
Well, Jimmy, a guy told me many years ago, he said, Coach, I don't care how many championships you win. If you aren't successful as a husband or father, you failed in life. And so I think we have to have our priorities proper. Our priorities, our family was number 1, our faith. Yes. Number 2 was our family. And number 3 was our profession, but in that order. But we had to have a strong faith as well.
Well, tell me about this. This is that's a great place to start, right? About faith and values, about that being a priority. You grew up in Ohio during a time where most people were very hardworking, blue collar, mostly blue collar, who loved their families, who had a deep, abiding faith, and they also loved their country. Have you always had a love for your country? Have you always loved America? Was that instilled in you growing up?
Yeah, I think there's certain things that should be taught at the home and reinforced in the school. And one of them is respect for authority, respect for law, respect for elders. But the other is a love of the country. This country was so good to me. But you have to remember this also. When I was 10 years of age, my father left to go fight the war in the Pacific, was gone for 5 years. All my uncles served in the service as well. And you know, the holidays were great. Yeah, they were times that you went on picnics and did different, but it was also about family and about the country and the obligation we have.
It's amazing. And that history, that military history does shape you, I think, in some remarkable ways, you know, when your family members have been part of that. What other values did your parents pass on to you?
Well, I think one is respect, and number two is be the very best you possibly can
Mm,
as we go along. I was very
yep.
fortunate to be in the military. And
Mm,
I got to tell you this, Jimmy, I learned more in the military than I ever learned in a college classroom. And this country would be a lot better off if people spent a year in the service. And why
yes.
do I say that? Because the one thing you learn in the service is
Mm,
the most important thing, your obligation to your fellow soldiers. You want
mm,
to fail, you have the right to fail. You don't have the right to cause somebody else to fail. And that's the problem
mm,
we have now. Everybody wants to make their own choices, but they don't want any ramifications with it. They don't want to live with the decision they make. They want somebody else to be held accountable for it. This
mm,
country is so screwed up in so many ways, and we've got to get it back the right way, or we're
yes.
going under.
Yeah, I think so. And I think we're at one of those crossroads right now where, the wrong turn at this moment could tip the ship, But one of the things you said, I think this military service, you have the right to choose failure for yourself. You do have that right. It would be a waste of talent, a waste of God-given potential, but you do have the ability to make those choices. But what you don't have the ability to do is cause someone else to fail. I've heard Nick Saban say that as well. Now I know where the source is. It must have come from you. I think that's a brilliant idea, is that you are responsible when you're part of an organization, part of something bigger than you, to be your best, aren't you?
Well, that's the thing. We have the
Mhm.
freedom to make choices wherever we are,
Yeah.
good or bad, because the choices we make. You choose
Yeah.
to do drugs, drop out of school,
Right.
join a gang, get tattoos all over, get arrested. You choose to have a difficult life, and stop blaming me for the
Yeah.
choices you make. We
Yeah.
have the right to choose whatever we
Mm.
want to have, but we have to live with the consequences of our choices.
Yes.
And that's what people don't want to do now, and that's what the people in government are screwing everybody out by saying, oh, we're going to handle it. You make
Yeah.
whatever choice you want. We're going to handle everything.
Yeah.
And I'm one of these people that believe our powers come from God, not from
Yes.
the government. Why is that
Yes.
important? Because God's infallible, and
Mhm.
God doesn't change. The government changes, and well, we're going to get rid of
Mm.
student loans. What in the world gives you the right to do that? Somebody make
Right.
a choice to take out a loan, you back it up. You give your
Yes.
word and you follow it up. But no, that's not the way
Mm.
this country works today. And that's why we have so many problems. When we start
Yes.
being held accountable for the choices we make, and we stand up for what we do and what we believe, then I think we're going to be on the right track.
That's good. You're right. We have lost this sense of personal responsibility and accountability for our actions and our decisions. And when the government can just wipe out a debt that we have, that we took and we're responsible for, that we got some value from, it really does make you think that the government is in charge. When our founding fathers said, they said a bunch of great things, right? One is all men are created equal and they're endowed
Amen.
by their creator with certain unalienable rights. Among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But this idea that rights come from God, that responsibilities, we don't talk about responsibilities coming from God as well. We've got rights and responsibilities.
Well, when I was in college, Jimmy, I was a history major.
Mm,
So I had a chance to study about the history and the founding of this country, etc.
mm,
We're founded on Judeo-Christian principles, and the whole
yes.
basis was this. This democracy will work when everybody's held accountable for the choices they make, and we learn
Mm,
to make good choices. How do you make good choices? Get out the Bible. Read the Ten
yeah.
Commandments if you have any. That it's
Yes.
not complicated. I always had three rules. Number one, we're going to do the right thing. Why
Mm,
is it important to do the right thing? So the people can trust you. If I didn't
mm,
do the right thing, my wife wouldn't trust me. And if we didn't trust each other, there's no way you have a relationship. Rule number two,
wow.
be the very best you can be. Not everybody can be all American, not everybody can be all conference, not everybody can be first team, but everybody can be the best they're capable of being. But the last rule, which is the most important one, is show people you care. Because, Jimmy, I'm an old man,
Mm,
but the one thing I've learned, no matter how old you are going to have problems, you're going to have difficulties, you're going to have obstacles. You're never going
mhm.
to live long enough if you don't have problems or challenges. That goes with it. But we
Yeah.
also have an obligation to our fellow individual to do the right thing and to
Yes.
live up to core to our values.
Those 3 rules, I mean, I wanna put those on the door of every classroom in America. I know we're gonna talk about schools, but you think about it. Do the right thing so that you can build trust in relationships, be the best.
Absolutely.
Yeah, be the best you can be, not you may not be the best, but you can be your best, and then
Not
show.
everybody can be an A student, not everybody can be first team, but everybody
Right.
can be the best you're capable of being, and that's all I ask you to do. And then, of
Yes.
course, the last one is show people you care, because you're never going to meet anybody again. They need a
Yeah.
smile, a kind word of encouragement. Because one thing I know for sure, everybody got problems and difficult obstacles. And I've had those 3 rules for 40 years for our athletes, for my children, and I've never needed a fourth rule, and they never
Mm,
let me down and never disappointed me. And not only
right.
that, when somebody violates it, you don't criticize the performer, but you
Right.
criticize their performance. And you say, I
Right.
don't believe that's the best you can do, and here's the reason why. So
Yes.
I try to
Love it.
keep life simple. If we can keep simple, we can understand things. But when we try to complicate everything, that's why we have 9 million laws now, and we don't
Yeah.
need 9 million laws.
Yes. I love that. With your 3 rule, first of all, this should be in a book. It may be in a book. You might have written this book, but you have to write this book with your rules, coach. Seriously, you'll sell 100 million copies. Everybody needs this. We need to have it in every school in America because in the end, your 3 rules are calling people higher. That's what they do. They call people higher to fulfill their greatest potential. I just love the simplicity of this.
Let me tell you why else this is important, Jimmy.
Mm,
I want you to take somebody you love, admire, and respect.
mm,
I want you to take somebody also you got a problem with. Could be anybody in this world. Put these 3 questions on both of them. Simple yes or no. Can you trust them? Yes or no. Are
mm.
they committed to excellence? Yes or no. They care about you and the organization? Yes or no. I guarantee you, the person you admire and respect, you said yes to all 3 questions.
Yes.
Person you got a problem with, you pinpointed the problem, and you can't trust them, you aren't committed, they don't care. Now, if we know the problem, we got a chance to work it out.
Mm. It's so simple, and I think we need more of that simplicity, right? We're complicating everything so much. Well, let's talk a little bit about your football coaching career. This is such a storied career, really, and I put them in the bucket of faith, football, and freedom. Right? We're going to talk about those topics, but during your coaching career and at the college and the professional level, how important was your faith? Obviously, your three values you just talked about, those 3 statements are rooted in faith. How did you express your faith as a coach in that football environment?
Well, one of the great things was being in Notre Dame where I could
Oh,
talk about my faith and
yeah.
I could go within the Proverbs every day during 2 days, and I didn't have to worry about somebody calling the press and complaining about it. But
Yeah.
every Sunday during the season, win, lose, or draw,
Mhm.
my family, 4 children, my wife, and I went to Mass every single Sunday.
Amazing.
And then we went out to breakfast. And I
Mm,
think it's important to be able to spend time with your family, but more
wow.
importantly, teaching them exactly what's important. When my wife passed away 4 years ago, the one thing she said,
Mm,
please make sure our children keep their faith in God, because she
mm,
has such a strong faith. I say, I don't
mhm,
pray for
mhm.
my wife anymore. I pray to her. But that to me, that's important for our children to understand what
Mm.
the real values of life are.
Yes. And I love your commitment to family during the season, right? So many coaches, you're under so much pressure. And a lot of times the family suffers quite a bit because of the time commitment and because of, the schedule and the travel. So I love the fact that you were committed to prioritizing your family. You mentioned it when we first started. You got to keep your priorities in the right order in order to be successful.
Well, that's really important. And I traveled a
Mm,
lot, but my wife and I had certain agreements. Number
mm,
one, if we're apart, we looked at the same moon. It was the same one.
mm.
But number two, at 10 o'clock every night, local time, I'd either call her or think of her, and she would
Oh,
do the same. We'd be together. That way, she knew that I was thinking about her at that
yes.
particular time. So,
Mm,
your children are important.
amazing.
But when I traveled, which I had to do a lot recruiting,
Hmm.
I would have my children keep a diary of
Mm,
what happened to them in school, what happened to them in sports, what happened to them at home, and their chores. And then when
yes.
I came back, if I'd gone for 2 or 3 days, I'd sit down with each child individually, and they would go over what happened to them. Because
Amazing.
I say, as long as they know you're really interested in what their life is, they're going to be interested in what you're doing. But
Yeah.
you have to work at it. It doesn't happen overnight. I come home, what happened today in school? Nothing, nothing. Surely something happened. Funny, said nothing. Well, after a couple of days, next thing, say, tell me about your day, Dad. What happened to you? They got to know that you genuinely care and are interested in what they're doing.
I love that. They say nothing a lot, don't they, Coach?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, you have to tell them, no, you're going to tell me something that happened today. It is one of the greatest joys in life. I think it's the favorite title that I have is dad. And, especially I've been blessed with three young men and a young lady, a young daughter, and they're all amazing. And their faith is very strong, I think, because we were so committed to it with them growing up. Let's flip a little bit to football. You said you brought at Notre Dame, you had the freedom to express your faith, which is so true. What a great university where you can teach out of the Proverbs, right? You can be
Oh, yes.
open about your faith.
I read the Proverbs. There's basically 30. A proverb tells
Yeah.
you how to get along with your fellow man. The Psalm tells you how to get along with God. So, but every day I would read the Proverbs. And what's really amazing to this day, Paul Grassmanis talks about the fact that we went over those Proverbs
Oh,
because it's so simple, but it's important
yes.
for people to make good choices of what they're doing and how they're doing. I didn't try to
Yes.
preach or lecture. I
Yeah.
just going to expose you to different things. It's like when we
Yeah.
went to a ball game, we always went to an opera, a ballet, a symphony, or something. And I say to them, someday you're going to be at a cocktail party, you're going to say, I don't like the opera, and I've been there. But
Yeah.
I think we ought to experience things before we pass judgment on what's right and what's wrong.
I knew those Notre Dame players were graceful for a reason. You take them to the ballet, they get graceful real fast.
Yeah. Well, what's really amazing is the players at Notre Dame came to me and said, we want to start a club called Holtz's Heroes.
Oh,
And
wow.
I said, as long as it's not social. But they have really done some great things. We have a director, we have a fundraiser. Because
Wow.
if you have no money, you have no cause. But let me tell you some of the things they've done. They've run the food bank in like 58 different cities. We take care of one another. We give scholarships to different people. But more importantly, when a player passes away, a former player is assigned to that family's children to make sure the children have the necessary academic supplies, but more importantly, to make sure that child knows how special their father was.
Yeah.
What a
Wow.
great person, what a great leader, what a great teammate. Because I want them to have pride in their father, even though their father was no longer with them, and
Wow.
maybe they don't remember much about it, but they hear us talk about how great his father was. It makes them understand, hey, I come from somebody who's really successful and I'm
Yeah.
blessed.
Yeah. And how great that Holtz's Heroes was an idea from the players. They wanted to do this. I think that's a testimony, Coach, to your influence in their lives. And coaches have a tremendous amount of influence on their players. Did you experience a degree of fatherlessness as you were coaching, where a lot of the young men came from homes where they didn't have fathers?
Well, not as much at Notre Dame as other schools, because at Notre Dame, if you don't have two parents, you usually aren't going to have enough academics to succeed at Notre Dame. But
Right.
I think that whether you had one father, two fathers, or no father, you were treated the same way. We had the same standards. We
Yeah.
didn't say, okay, you didn't have a father, so we'll compensate for this. My son played for me at Notre Dame my first year there. And one day, he and three other players were late. So after practice, I said for the team, this is what happens when you're late, and got in front. I did ups and downs, left and right, until they're dragging. Then I said, okay, you three are done. Skip, you're not. And I did it, and I would have still
Yeah.
been northern, but the players were so embarrassed. They closed in, encouraging him. So the next day, Skip came in my office. He said, Dad, that was unfair to me. He said, I deserved to run, but no more than anybody else. I wouldn't any later. I said, but I raised you. You knew better. They did. We taught
Wow.
you about the importance of being on time and the importance of doing the right thing and stuff. But with the players, we had one standard.
Amazing.
I can't take into account your background. But I'm
Yeah.
going to believe that you have character and
Mm.
integrity. You're going to know the difference between right and wrong and follow those three rules. You follow those
Yes.
three rules, it doesn't matter whether you have one father or four fathers.
Yes.
All the
I
same.
I love the fact that you had very high standards, right? You had very high expectations. And my experience with young people today is when you raise the bar, when you tell them they can do more than they currently are, they can be better, they can be more, they rise to the occasion most often. It's the dumbing down and saying that people are victims and that they can't do it that really is harming the next generation. Instead, we need to ask them to step up in their standards with our expectations. Isn't that right?
Oh, I agree with you completely. They're going to live up to your expectations. But
Yeah.
this is what I've learned about the younger generation.
Mm.
They're so insecure,
Mm.
and they've never had uh, defeat, they've never had adversity, and
Mm.
they're always looking to blame somebody else.
Yeah.
But young people today, what you say to a young person today is important. But it's not near as important as your tone of voice.
Mm.
Your tone of voice is not near as important as your facial expression.
Wow.
So the madder I got, the more I'd smile. Say, Jim, that was a dumb thing to do. You have no idea how mad I am. But you don't get a stern face. You don't act like you're lectured. But this is a fact. This is what we
Mm.
believe and how we do it. And this is how we do things here at Notre Dame.
Amazing, amazing. I love that. And it's funny. I just did a leadership and culture training yesterday with a company here, and I talked to them about the importance of their countenance, of their facial expressions,
Oh, yeah.
so that you don't discourage. Instead, you encourage that people can do more. Coach, coaches have come under fire, right, in recent years for their public expression of their faith. You're a man of God. You know a lot of coaches that share your faith. One in particular, we have a mutual friendship with Coach Joe Kennedy. And I know
Yes.
that you and America First Policy Institute and the Center for 1776 were really instrumental in helping him in his 8-year journey. Tell us a little bit about Coach Kennedy, what happened and where we are today.
Well, Coach Kennedy went and was a coach, and what he did, he asked the team to say a prayer after the game. It wasn't required. We're going to kneel and we're
Mm.
going to say a prayer individually, but you don't have to be there. Well,
Mhm.
the school said no, you're going to be fired. So he
Mm.
fired him. He took it to court, and after 8 years, he won the case
Amazing.
and got his job back. He since has left it. I don't know what Joe's doing now at the present time, but
Mm.
it's
Yeah.
like anything else. This is my faith. You do
Yeah.
what you want, but I'm going to
Yes.
go tell you how I believe. Now, I'm
Mm.
not trying to influence you and how what you do, but we prayed. I
Mm.
can't begin to tell you how many times I prayed when Michigan was on our 3 yard line. Oh God, you don't let them score. I'll change my life. It's just natural for us to pray. But I have
Yes.
found that prayer is important, and
Yes.
it soothes my soul when
Mm.
I do it. And I don't do it enough today, and that's one thing that's obvious to me. But my children are very,
Mm.
very strong, and
Yeah.
are as our grandchildren. And
Yeah.
to me, that was what was important as a
Yeah.
grandfather and grandmother, that we taught our grandchildren
Yes.
what
Yeah.
was important and why God was important in our life.
Yeah. I prayed a lot when Michigan was on your 3-yard line too. I was a big Notre Dame fan. I didn't like any of that nonsense. So, but I'll tell you, one of the things that I love is you made a statement that said essentially, that your faith is yours and you have the freedom to express your faith and your moral conviction, not just privately, because a lot of people will tell you, hey, your faith is private. But that's not the way God describes it. God says it's actually personal. It is personal to you, but it's very public, that you don't check your faith at the door.
Well, it's what this government has done and tried to
Yes.
take religion out of everything in our life, and that's not right.
Yeah.
Let's understand how this country was founded. It was
Mhm.
not founded on Judeo-Christian principles,
Yes.
and we have to learn to do the right thing and
Mm.
discipline ourselves on it. But
Yes.
I can't account for how somebody acts or what they do,
Right.
but this is how I live, and I'm going to try to live by an example. It's
Hmm.
like one of the things
Yes.
that's important in my life was when I sat down and decided the values I wanted and the goals I had. One of them was as a Christian.
Yeah.
I'm not going to preach it or lecture it, but I hope
Mm.
the way I live my life reflects the faith I have in God. And I'm going to
Yes.
try to live by example rather than just preaching, etc. But I
Mm.
think it's important that you believe so strongly you
Yes.
have that faith. And,
Yes.
God bless you. You do what you want to do, but you want to have the right to pray and play. That's fine. That's up to you. I
Yes.
have to have the same right also. Let's
Yes.
not take God out of life. And that's
Yes.
what we're trying to do, and that's wrong.
Exactly. And it's really affecting American culture in so many ways.
Oh,
And football, though, has in America has traditionally been this unifying force. And I remember you talk passionately about 9/11, about back when you were the head coach of the South Carolina Gamecocks.
yes.
And that was back in 2001 following 9/11. You talk about, I think you had the first game back from 9/11.
First
Is that
game,
right?
it was on Thursday night on ESPN. All the games were canceled the previous week.
Mm,
We're playing Mississippi State at Mississippi State,
mm,
and we travel there. And Adrian Dupree was our team chaplain. And at
mm,
the chaplain service, I'll never forget what he said. He said to the team, he said, last Saturday, a lot of brave people, policemen, firemen, went into a burning building to
mm.
save people's lives. He said, can you imagine how good you'd feel to know you saved somebody's life? He
Wow.
then said to the team, think how much better you'd feel to save somebody's soul. He said to
Mm.
save a life is for a matter of years. A soul is for eternity.
Wow.
But it's important
Amazing.
for us. And,
Amazing.
when they did that thing, yes, we became very close. We became
Mm.
very religious, so to speak.
Yeah.
But we also became good patriots. But that
Yes.
should last.
Yes.
And we have to teach our children about this.
Yes.
When you have your father and four favorite uncles
Mm.
away during World War II,
Mm.
and your mother is talking all the time about the war and what's going on, you
Mm.
understand that this was a special time of the year. And I'll
Yeah.
never forget the joy and the excitement
Mm.
we had on VE Day and VJ Day,
Mm.
victory in Japan, victory in
Yes.
Europe. All the excitement, the hug and the kissing. They're going to come home and get on with their life. We didn't have much, but
Yes.
we had what we had, and we're proud of what we had, and we're proud of
Yes.
what we believed.
Yes, I mean, clearly you're from the greatest generation, and obviously, even just the way you talk, the values that you share, your love of country, your love of God, your love of family, and your concern about where our country's going. It's clear that you were born out of that greatest generation, and I think that's part of why we need your voice so much, and others like you, because you remember when American patriotism and our values, our Judeo Christian values, were ingrained in everything that we did. You just mentioned something, we need to teach our kids the importance of American history, American patriotism.
Yes.
There's a movement right now, Coach, to kind of systematically remove this love of America, this love of American freedom from our schools. What the heck is going on?
Well, everything's done by the left. They want to
Hmm.
destroy everything. I always said this: a team, Jimmy, goes through four different stages.
Mm,
First stage, you go in or losing, you learn how to compete. You
mm,
learn how to compete because you execute the fundamentals, blocking and tackling. Then you have to learn how to win. You learn how
mm,
to win because everybody does the little things. Then you
mm.
have to learn how to handle winning. Once you start winning, everybody forgets what it was like when you lose and think it's never going to happen again. And then you get through stage four. That is the championship stage where the culture of the team is determined by the players. The players don't wait for you. They
Mm.
understand what we're all about. And that's what
Wow.
bothers me, the
Wow.
culture of this country. The things that we believed in about faith and honesty and helping
Mm.
the neighbor and caring about other people.
Yes.
Those were very, very important.
Yeah.
But these are the cultures that we've lost. Why? Because people come in the country, they don't care about what
Yeah.
can I get, and we don't have anything. At least when you become a citizen, you have to pass certain questions
Yes.
about history of it. And I say I'm
Yes.
all for immigration. Come here legally, but come here
Yes.
the right way so you learn what we're about. And you come here to become us. You don't come here because
Yes.
you want us to become you. That's not who
Mm.
we are. This is what we are.
Yes.
And so somehow we got to get the culture of this country back.
Yes. I love what you just said. We're absolutely for legal immigration because they will learn all about America's rich history, our founding values, and they
Amen.
assimilate into the American culture. Like you just said it, you become us. Right. You become an American citizen. It's very unique. That culture is very, very unique. Um, let's talk a little bit about the schools because I know how important parents and parental rights are for you. We see states like California, they don't care about parents' rights at all. In fact, they believe that your kids are the property of the state. Talk about why it's so important that we continue to instill national pride and unity in our schools.
Well, first of all, we teach it in our children about
Yeah.
having pride in
Yeah.
whatever we're associated with, including
Mm,
our school.
mm,
And we teach our children our values, and
yeah.
they should be reinforced in the school.
Mm,
Like respect for authority, respect for
yes.
law, respect for teachers, for elders, for coaches. And that's reinforced in school, but that's not. I want to tell you, when the
Mm.
nuns hit me with a ruler, I, I would cry and I'd go home, but I never did say a word because if I told my dad that none hit me, he would spank me again because they supported each other. The
Yes.
school supported the parents, the
Yes.
parents supported the schools, but it's not that way now.
Mm,
It's once again, it's the left
mm,
government, and I
mm,
hate to say
yeah.
that, but I believe it's the bottom of my heart
Yeah.
that's trying to ruin this country and
Yeah.
trying to change everything upside down about it. And
Yeah.
that's not right.
Yeah, I agree. And why is it so important to keep? So, if you've been in a local high school recently, you'll notice that many of these schools have TVs up on the wall, and they're literally playing CNN all day. Believe it or not, they're actually playing the leftist CNN in our schools, and they're indoctrinating our kids into these ideologies. Why is it so important that we keep this leftist politics and social activism, turning our kids into social activists? Why is it so important that we keep that nonsense out of our schools?
Because they should be learning how to read and write and do math, and they don't. They teach about all this woke stuff going on,
Yeah,
and that's not the way that's not the way you do in
yeah,
school. You learn
yeah,
how to read and write and make good
yeah,
choices as you go along. It's
yeah,
not complicated.
yeah.
Why do we complicate life when we don't have to?
Exactly. I was just thinking the simplicity of your three rules, and now building this winning culture, this championship culture. If we just stuck to that stuff, we'd be in better shape. I mean, we've got men competing against women in sports, and I know this is another one of those hot buttons. Since you've been a coach your whole life, you've seen competitive athletes. Riley Gaines made the world aware that men were competing against women in college sports, and in fact, in all levels now. Why is it so important that we protect our girls and our young women in sports and competitive environments?
I want to say it was 1976 where
Mm,
they passed Title IX,
yeah.
which said that if you have 9 men coaching, you should
Mm,
have 9 women coaching. You have X
mm,
amount of women playing, you should have X amount of men playing. There should be an even balance. And I wasn't in favor of it, but that was a rule, and you're going to go along with the rule. And it turned out to be a great rule.
mm-hmm.
When I watch women compete now, whether it be Olympics or anything else, the things you learn in team. You learn
Mm,
about being unselfish, about subjugate your welfare for the welfare of others, about getting knocked down, about getting up,
mm,
about persevering. The lessons you learn in team sports are so important for women
yes,
as they are for men.
yes.
But all of a sudden now, it's not women versus women. And when they can't tell you
Mm,
what a woman is, I can say, hey, cut me out.
yeah.
I don't need this conversation.
Yeah. Yeah. And we're fighting, there's a lot of people that are fighting to maintain the fairness of women competing against women. Of course, when men compete against women at these levels, they just dominate the sports. They take opportunities from girls. It's really unfair, but it's also unsafe. We also have these men in women's locker rooms, and which these are supposed to be safe places for competitors. It's just nonsense.
Oh, it's ridiculous when you see people that go to prison and are put in women's prison
Yes.
and rates occur. It's inevitable that that's going to happen. That's human
Yes.
nature.
Yep.
Let's just do the right thing.
Do the right thing.
And the right thing is if you're a man, and that's determined at birth.
Yeah. Yep. And one of the things I love about America First Policy Institute and the Center for 1776, which you're the chair of, and I'm so grateful you're the chair, because I think you lend this level of experience, simplicity, fairness, and truth to it. You've been super helpful in getting legislation passed to protect women and girls in sports. And you are really on the front edge of restoring American patriotism, restoring American values. I love what you're doing with the Center for 1776.
Well, I don't look on it and say I'm doing anything special. I'm just trying to do what's right. That's
Right.
all. Let's do the right thing. If
Mhm.
you sit there and say it's right for a man to compete against a woman and
Right.
take her scholarship, that's nonsense.
Mhm.
I was born at night, but I wasn't born last night. So don't try to fool me on everything. I'm not the brightest person in the world, but I do have strong faith and belief.
Yes, well, you've got good old-fashioned values and faith that we need again. Listen, I know that you're an optimist. You believe the best is yet to come. A lot of people have lost their sense of patriotism, but let's be honest, we think that the best is yet to come for America. Encourage our listeners a little bit about how to make that happen.
Well, if I was president, I'd say everybody go spend a year in the military,
Mm,
because then you learn about self-discipline, you learn about obligation to other people, etc.
yes.
But you also understand it's a privilege to be able to represent this
Mm,
country and what you do and how we do it. And
it's
so
amazing.
I grew up singing patriotic songs, but that's just the
Mm,
way I was brought up, the way I believe. And
yes.
when your parents or your father is in the Civil War or in the
Yeah.
Pacific Ocean
Yeah.
fighting the Japanese,
Mm,
you don't have to teach
yeah.
somebody to be patriotic then. It
Yeah.
comes automatically. And yeah,
Yeah.
we've gotten away from that, but we go back till we allow the schools to teach them what we want them to do. No, teach
Mm,
them to read, to write, to do math, to do arithmetic, and reinforce the things we believe. You
yeah.
don't determine what my child's going to believe.
That's
We're
right.
going to determine that. You're to support it.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I think we're standing at a crossroads right now, Coach, and I'm super grateful for your voice. I'm thankful that you are a positive force for faith, for family, and for freedom. Thank you so much for the life you've lived and the positive principles that you're bringing to us. So thankful.
Well, thank you. It goes back to my parents for what they taught me. My father had a third grade education, and
Mm,
I was born in a basement. We had two bedrooms or two rooms, one bedroom for my sister, myself, and my parents, a
wow.
kitchen and a half bath. But you know, that's what we had, and
Yes.
you have to appreciate what you had. And everybody
Mm,
wants to buy what they want. No,
mm,
we learned you buy what you can afford and
mm.
what is important to you. But
Yeah.
I think it's a battle that we have to believe in and it's worth fighting. And if I can encourage other people, and I'm an old man right now, but this is what I believe, and I'm going to go to the grave. And I don't want my grandchildren saying, well, Papa, did you do everything you could?
Mm.
Yeah, I'm trying.
Yeah. And thank you for being such a great example for me, for my sons and my daughter, my family. And thanks for encouraging us. You make me want to fight harder to maintain our faith and our freedom in this country. Thanks, Coach. I really appreciate you.
Well, thank you. Just remember this, it is important.
Yes. Yes. Well, God bless you, my friend. I appreciate you.